Okay, so yesterday, after I commented that the aspiration prayer was typical Lama Zopa, I was reading the rest of the thing and I saw that the sadhana was put together by Lama Yeshe. So that shows how close Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa's minds were. Yeah. The next prayer sounds very much more like Lama Yeshe. This is how Lama would explain things. And so here, again, it's an optional prayer, a prayer for the time of death. And it's actually giving us instructions. We're requesting Amitabha, please, to guide us in a certain way, but what we're doing is trying to imprint in our own mind how we should think when different things, visions and so on, occur at the time of death. Okay, and so what he's describing here are the 8 visions that happen at the time of death. This is usually described in highest Yoga Tantra, not in the Kriya Tantra practice that this is. But Lama had us meditating on the death absorption, even doing when we were just beginning Lam Rim people, So clearly he thinks that it's something helpful for people to be aware of. Okay. Yeah, so this is a good way, to imprint this in our mind, should we be able to see these visions at death. And even if we aren't, it's still a good thing to imprint our mind with these kinds of aspirations. So it says, at the moment the messenger of death arrives, please come instantaneously from your pristine realm. Advise me to give up grasping at mundane existence and invite me to come to your pristine realm. Okay, so the messenger of death, there's no real messenger of death, no external being. This is anthropomorphizing things, okay? But it means when the time of death arrives, this is what we need to think. And we need to, be able to recognize that we're dying instead of just denial, mañana, later on, I'm too busy, whatever, death is here, and to accept that this is happening. And as His Holiness says, this is what we've been preparing for during our lifetime. Yeah, is this moment of death, to see if we can practice the Dharma at this time, and especially if we can have some understanding of emptiness at this time, would be very, very helpful. Okay, so when death arrives, then we're requesting Amitabha, please come instantaneously from your pristine realm. Now, I'm not so sure that Amitabha is going to take the next jet, from the Pure Land here. Hopefully he's TSA pre-check. He can get on easily. He doesn't have to go through, and maybe he has global entry too. He can, come in without really the long lines. So I'm not quite so sure. Maybe it happens that there's a vision of Amitabha, because if we've meditated on Amitabha and familiarized our mind with Amitabha and really seen Amitabha as the embodiment of all of the enlightened qualities, then yes, it's totally possible that at the time of death we have a vision, an actual vision of Amitabha. It also seems to me that it could be, instead of a vision of Amitabha, it's more an internal feeling of connection with Amitabha. Yeah, so it's not that you would see Amitabha in a vision, but you would feel connected to Amitabha in your heart. Okay, so what are we asking Amitabha to do, when he comes or when we feel connected to him? Advise me to give up grasping at mundane existence. That's the whole thing to do at the time of death, is give up grasping at mundane existence. Because when we study the 12 links of dependent arising, we see that craving and clinging, are what nourish the karmic seeds, the polluted karmic seeds, that then ripen in renewed existence and project us into another rebirth. So the more we can give up grasping at mundane existence, then the weaker craving and clinging are going to be. Also, the more peaceful our mind is going to be, because when we're dying, if we're grasping at mundane existence, we don't want to separate from our dear ones. Yeah, and there's this incredible anguish of thinking of separating from the people we care about. Then dying with that kind of mind is not going to be very pleasant. If we're clinging to our possessions and our property, worrying about who's going to take what, or worrying about who's going to find what amongst all of our junk, and what are they going to think about us when they find this stuff, then we're not going to die peacefully. If we're attached to this body and we don't want to separate from this body at the time of death, not going to be a good state of mind. If we're so hung up in our ego identity, I am this kind of person who should be treated in this way, who deserves this, who should have this, or whatever. At the time of death, all that is going bye-bye, because our whole ego identity is something that is completely fabricated depending upon the environment that we're in. Without the environment we're in, we would not have many of all of the worldly goals that we have. We're in a certain environment, so we value, certain kind of possessions, certain kind of reputation, all these kinds of things. So that whole identity, I am this race, this nationality, this kind of personality, this, social class, this educational level, this religion, blah, blah, blah. All that's gone, finished, forget it. So if we're really attached to that, and we're separating from all that, it's going to be pretty confusing at the time that we die, because we're going to go, who am I? There's going to be this feeling of the I is just being obliterated. So that's why first and foremost, Amitabha, remind me to give up grasping at mundane existence and see that there's nothing here to hold on to whatsoever. And when you really think about it, it's true, isn't it? I mean, what are we going to take with us from here? It all stays here. We may have gotten our way 100,000 times. None of that matters at the time of death. Who cares? We may have all sorts of praise. We may have diplomas. We may have certificates. We may have a whole stack of cards with people singing our glory. And so what? And none of it comes with. People are going to go through it and look and say, why are they saving all this junk, So, best not to be attached to any of those things. And that's what Nagarjuna really advised the king in Precious Garland. Whatever you have, use it to create merit. Don't just hang on to your own wealth and so on. Use it to create merit before you die. Because he told the king, the king, he had to save his, have his stockpile during his life because he's running the kingdom, and he needed that, that to be able to disperse to people and so on. But Nagarjuna said, king, as you're approaching death, everybody's going to forget about you, and they're going to be focused on brown-nosing up to who's ever going to be the next king. So that they can get some of the pot that you're leaving for them. So why are you just letting all this stuff sit in your storage, You should give it out to your population. Use it to create merit, because otherwise all these people are just going to fight over it. And then who knows, you can't even control who's going to be next king and how they're going to use it. So use it in a wise way now before you die. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Yeah. So remind me, Amitabha, to give up grasping at mundane existence. Now, Amitabha could be there saying over and over and over again, don't grasp at mundane existence, don't grasp at name, don't grasp. And if during our whole life we haven't tried to relinquish grasping at mundane existence, it's not that we're going to listen to Amitabha at the time we're dying. Yeah, whatever views we have that are deeply entrenched, that are our stubborn views, they're not going to evaporate at the time of death. Even Amitabha appears in front of you, with firecrackers and says, give up mundane existence. You're going to say, but, I want to do things this way, and I'm attached to this, and I want this, and I want that, and it should be this way and that way. Yeah? So if we want to be able to listen to Amitabha at the time of death, we need to listen to Amitabha while we're alive, which means on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, on a day-to-day basis, practice giving up our grasping at mundane existence. And if we do that, then there's a chance at the time of death we'll listen to Amitabha, and maybe even we'll have it already spontaneously coming in our mind, which would be even better, okay? But that's only going to happen if we practice while we're alive, yeah? And invite me to come to your pristine realm. Yeah, so we're asking Amitabha, tell me, stop grasping here, invite me to come. Yeah, so if we're expecting a royal invitation from Amitabha, that he's going to appear, prostrate to us 3 times, give us one of these beautiful gold, invitations. And, the latest thing in India is when you're invited to some big thing, they give you some big kind of thing that with all these different colors going around it, and you pin it on, and that means you're somebody important and you've been invited somewhere. And so it's really great. It lasts 3-4 hours, as long as that event does. And then I don't know how much money they've spent to make those big fancy things, but you either throw it away or you have a drawer where you stockpile all your invitations and big fancy things, which I don't know what they're going to do with after. Maybe they have a museum afterwards with all your, So don't expect that to happen from Amitabha, okay? Yeah, Amitabha's not going to beg and plead us and prostrate and get down on his knees to request us to come. We should be the ones who are begging and prostrating and getting down on our knees and requesting Amitabha's inspiration to transform our mind so that at the time of death, we're thinking about the Pure Land. Yeah. If we're not thinking about the Pure Land, yeah, because they say, for example, if at the time of death you're really, really cold and you're craving heat, then, if that craving is strong, it could make a negative karma ripen that presents the vision of the hot hells to us as a paradise, and we're attracted to rebirth there because it's warm. Yeah? So we have to really, create some strong imprint with Amitabha's Pure Land and imagining it, and imagining the other beings around us as bodhisattvas in Amitabha's Pure Land, and imagining all the sounds that we hear as the sounds of Amitabha's Pure Land. Because they say that in Sukhavati, when the birds chirp, you hear a teaching on impermanence. Yeah, when you hear the waterfall, you receive a teaching on dependent arising. Yeah, so every noise you hear becomes a teaching for you. So this happened because of the state of our mind. We could do the same thing here. Instead of each noise becoming a source of irritation, yeah, if we thought, oh, there's the sound of the drill, it's teaching me emptiness. Yeah, then we're transforming that sound right there and then. And, otherwise we hear the sound of the drill and it's like, oh, this is such a horrible sound, Or we hear some sound, the person who's meditating with the plastic jacket, not plastic, but nylon jacket that crackles and crinkles, and the zipper that makes so much noise. And you're hearing, oh God, that person, why are they moving so much? They should sit still, they're disturbing me. And then this other one's clicking their mala, click, 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 click. It's so noisy. And we get really angry. Don't they know I'm meditating? Well, actually, we're not meditating. We're being angry, aren't we? Yeah. So at those times, if we just say, okay, let's imagine I'm in Amitabha's Pure Land, and these sounds are teaching me, the sound of emptiness, the sound of impermanence, the sound of fortitude. And so we take those things as part of our path instead of getting angry. Yeah, then we're able to really transform what we're doing here and now. So all those gathas, that we read in the Avatamsaka Sutra and that we have in our Vinaya booklet, that you so nicely memorized, those gathas, they are the things that are helping us transform every single thing in our daily life into something that reminds us of the Dharma. And that's so useful at the time of death, because talk about not being able to control our environment. Who knows what kind of environment, we're going to die in? Yeah, we don't know, if it's going to be in a car crash at the side of the road, or if you're going to wind up in a hospital with a roommate who's watching television while you're dying. And you're hearing, they're listening to Fox News, or any kind of news, and you want to die to that. We're going to need some way to transform that, aren't we? Some way to hear that and respond with compassion. And train the mind while we're alive to respond that way. So that's what this first request to Amitabha is about. And we see, it's up to us to start practicing that now.